Hey everyone, happy Friday. This is Ari. This week we're talking about passing. How us as trans men, I guess pass as cisgendered men. My thoughts about passing. I mean, bridging on my last video, I was talking about how I was having difficulty passing, and then I watched Kamari's video on passing, and he brought up something that was kind of like a eureka for me. That he said that he had more difficulty passing when he was in the LGBT community, and I was like, duh. In that community, especially the lesbian community, it's not uncommon for a lesbian to have a wide, gender expression and still be a lesbian. So it's kind of like the trans community is not seen, it seems. Plus, I think that a lot of the trans men get mistaken as lesbian because, as I mentioned before, I think that people distinguish or try to determine, what they look for is different sexuality types instead of gender types. And they use gender as kind of like a marker to distinguish somebody who's heterosexual or homosexual. So it's easy to confuse the two, I think. And I am, in the LGBT community, and I have a lot of friends, and so I am kind of lumped up, with the LGB, but it's not. I'm not even talking about my sexual expression. That's just assumed. My big thing is my gender expression, but that's kind of like overlooked and unwittingly used to figure out my sexual expression. So I do think that gender is not really looked at. Actually, I mean, it is really looked at, but is not a distinguishing tool. Not tool, but a distinguished trait in someone. People are more likely to look for gender as a means to figure out sexuality, your sexual orientation, or sexual expression. So it's kind of overshadowed, and that's unfortunate, and I think that's why a lot of trans guys, get confused for lesbians sometimes, especially if they don't have facial hair or they're not completely binding or not completely cisgendered looking. As far as the trans community validifying, becoming more cisgender, I do have a problem with that. Not only because, I do and I don't. A part of me wants that very much, to pass as a cisgender male, but another part of me wonders, since gender, this binary gender is kind of, it seems like a construct of society, it only being two genders and not more than two. Why am I trying to validate that type of limited view, and why am I so concerned with wanting to pass as like a mono male or something like that? I'm much more than that. I'm learning more to just accept myself as just the male that I am, instead of becoming some type of male that people want me to be, or that's categorized as, in this culture, what is a male. And I can't be that. I don't think anybody can. And I think cisgendered men have a difficulty dealing with that as well. We don't see it, but I have a lot of male friends that kind of struggle with what is male, and what makes a male, and the pressures of being a male in this society. So kind of becoming a male is not as easy as people think. It's not the easier sex. It's just as hard, as much more limited than being a female. In this culture, women have much more means of expression than men do. And there's still that double standard and that sexism about how the culture views women overall. I think men are subject to violence and ridicule if they emulate the female, and that speaks volumes. As I said before, I said this on Facebook, but about how this culture treats women. So, passing, I think when you come to a point where you're more comfortable with yourself, it's not as much of an issue. It's more about being who you are and being yourself.